We are going to have some fun, huh? This trip is an amazing experience, really. You're just going to enjoy it so much, and thank you all for joining and for being here. Looks like a good, healthy bunch. We're going to cover a lot of miles over there. We're going to do a lot of walking. We'll see so many sights. It's hard to absorb it, of course. You're so surrounded by things as we're walking along, but we'll do the best we can, get what you can out of it. This is my favorite trip, Rome to London. It really hits all the bells. It goes to the top places in Europe, the most popular, the most interesting, the most exciting and stimulating. So this is really a great one, and I'm there to help you get as much as possible out of it, of course. So we're a total of 16 people, which is a lovely small group. You know, it's big enough that it'll be interesting. We have enough people. You'll be able to get to know each other. We're all kind of strangers right now, but very, very soon we'll be good friends as we roll along. And not too small. If it's only 6 or 8 people, then maybe that's really, you run out of things to say to somebody or whatever. But I think 16 is pretty well perfect. That's 16 to 20. That's really an optimum size. Let's just dive right into the calendar schedule. And then we can go over these, the tips and procedures memo that I've already mailed to you. We can just kind of skip through that since you've had a chance to read it and go over any questions that you might have about that, okay? Well, most important point, I guess, of the meeting, aside from meeting each other personally, is the meeting point at the airport. So it's September 23rd, 6 p.m. we meet, and that's enough time. You know, if you're there a little early, I'll be there by 5:30, I'm sure, but that'll give us time for the check-in. Technically, it's a domestic departure because we're going from here to Newark, but of course the bags will be checked all the way through to Rome. And 2 overnight flights. And so we get to Rome, we'll take taxis from the airport to the hotel, get to the hotel about 10:30 in the morning, and the rooms will probably not be ready at that hour, but that's okay. We'll just drop off our stuff and take a little stroll and have lunch. We'll go to the Campo dei Fiori and have lunch at an outdoor restaurant. It's a very lively market square just around the corner from the hotel. And after that, the rooms will be ready so we can check in and shower, change, rest up a little bit, and then go out in the afternoon for a nice walk. This is right through the heart of Rome, right over to the Piazza Navona, which is just 3 blocks from the hotel, and then on to the Pantheon and the Trevi Fountain, the Spanish Steps, all of which takes maybe 3 hours. And when we're walking, we'll take a break every hour or so, try and find a place to sit down and rest for 5 minutes. So we're not on a marathon. We're not going to be walking fast. We'll be stopping, and I'll be talking, and you'd be taking your pictures. And I like to think that the trip gets better and better each day, but this first day is such a winner, you know, hitting, wow, the big sights of Rome that way. And then after we reach the Spanish Steps, it's going to be about 7 o'clock, and you can either take a taxi back to the hotel or we can walk back. And that too is a beautiful walk through other streets in the middle of Rome. Shops are still open, and then have dinner back by the hotel area somewhere. It's about a mile from the Spanish Steps to the hotel. So we'll take about probably an hour and a half to walk back and stop off for some gelato on the way at Giulitti's as well. The gelato of Italy is something else. Okay, that's day 1. Now on the 26th, we are going to take a walk through the Roman Forum and into the Colosseum. Very spectacular building. Probably with the Great Wall of China, the 2 most spectacular buildings remaining from the ancient days. Unique. It's the largest surviving Roman structure. Well, then we'll go over to the Vatican Museum. We'll get there as late as possible in the afternoon in hopes of minimizing the crowds. It's always crowded inside that museum, but the later you get there, the better it is. By the time we get there in late afternoon, there's no line. There's no line. The problem with, say, skip the line if you want to go in the morning, yeah, fine, okay, you can get in, but then once you're in, it is so crowded when you go during the day. So that's why I like to go at the end of the day. And it'll give us enough time to see it. Yeah, and then that evening, if you like, we can take a stroll over to Trastevere, which is just a half a mile away from the hotel, across the river. And then the next morning, something quite special. We'll go off by taxi to the Borghese Gallery, which is an art museum in a former palace. And it has got some of the best sculptures by Bernini. You'll be hearing a lot about Bernini when we're in Rome. Great sculptor of the 1600s. That's going to be quite an experience. And normally, you know, throughout the tour, you're paying for admission to museums, and that will be the case generally. But I'm so keen on getting you into the Borghese that I'm paying your way because I want everybody to come along, and you'll enjoy it. It's a small museum too, so in an hour and a half we can see everything. There's paintings in there by Caravaggio and other great paintings by Raphael, Titian, but small place. So we're out of there an hour and a half, and we can walk through the park. It's like the central park of Rome, the Borghese Gardens. And then after the Borghese, and then we can keep walking. If you'd rather not, you can hop a taxi and go home, go off on your own. That's always an option. You can always peel off anytime, any of these activities. But it makes a really nice, pretty much all-day walk. We'll go down via Veneto, which was a glorious, glamorous street in the 50s and 60s. The La Dolce Vita and the five-star hotels are over there. And then around to a couple of other churches that have got more artistic landmarks inside. We'll be seeing a lot of churches, especially in Rome. Not so much for the religion, but for the artworks, of course. During the Renaissance and the Baroque periods, most of the money went into decorating the churches. Most of the artists' work was related to the churches. And we'll see another Bernini that afternoon, the Ecstasy of St. Teresa, and then into the Diocletian, Baths of Diocletian, which was a Roman bathhouse, 2,000 years old, redesigned by Michelangelo. It's still standing with its roof intact. Quite nice. And then we can walk down Via Nazionale, which is the probably busiest shopping street of the city. Downhill walk, back to the hotel. Or again, you can peel off and hop a taxi anytime you want. Rome is now full of taxis. A few years ago, they doubled the number of taxi licenses. It used to be tricky to find a taxi, but now they're all over the place. And that afternoon, we can do another little walk in Rome. There's so much to see. Do you know I wrote a book about Rome? I brought my iPad to show you. It's an ebook. And in my book, I've got 6 walking tours. So when it comes to Rome, I'm quite an authority. I can't say it's my favorite place. I got a lot of favorite places, but it's certainly one of them. So I wrote this ebook on Rome. It's available on the iTunes store, and it's got 35 movies as well as 600 pages of text. A lot of photographs and a lot of maps. So it's really pretty interesting, I think. 35 videos in my ebook. There's more ebooks I want to make from my various cities. I've done a lot of writing, travel writing. I used to be a part-time Star Bulletin travel writer. So I've written 55 articles for the newspaper, and got all my videos that I've been making over the years. So that's fun. If you have an iPhone, it works as well, but it's only good on Apple devices with the video. I have an Amazon version that'll play on a Kindle, but no videos there. Anyway, I'm very enthusiastic about Rome, but like I say, each day gets better. Okay, let's move along to Florence now. The cradle of the Renaissance, right? And there we'll do a nice walking tour. We're going to then go into the Accademia, Gallery and see the statue of David by Michelangelo. Real highlight of this trip. Evenings, plenty of restaurants near the hotel. Again, our hotel, the Cerretani in Florence, is just 1 block from the main cathedral, from the Duomo. Perfect spot. And the next day on Sunday, the 29th, we can do a nice city bus ride up the hillside to get a great view looking down at Florence. And then we'll walk downhill. And then in the afternoon, we can go to Pisa. Nice little side trip. We'll just hop on the local train. It takes about 1 hour to get to Pisa. Not expensive, probably $15 for the round trip train ticket. And when we get to Pisa, we'll walk through the old town. It's really not just a tower, but the old town of Pisa is quite charming. They've got the oldest university in Italy and some arcaded streets that go back to the Renaissance days, and with a lovely pedestrian stretch in Pisa too, to focus back on that again. From the station to the tower, it's a leisurely 50-minute walk, most of which is on a pedestrian lane, right through the main high street of Pisa, the shopping street. And even it's on a Sunday, some of the shops are open, and all the locals are out walking. And students, there's 40,000 college students in Pisa, out of a total population of 110,000. It's a great college, even today. And as I mentioned, it's one of the oldest in Europe. And it just takes less than 1 hour to walk from the station to the tower. We're not planning to go up in the tower. If you wanted to do that, you'd need to make a booking yourself. You have to make a reservation, and then you'd probably be coming home on your own because it takes a little while. But we'll see the tower anyway, and the cathedral, the Duomo next to it. And then back to Florence for dinner that night. And next morning, departure for Venice, the watery wonderland of Venice. And by train, it's a very nice train ride. Just takes 3 hours to get there on the nice fast train. And there we'll have a walking tour in the afternoon after we check in. And we can have a nice lunch on a terrace restaurant overlooking the Grand Canal. It's right near the hotel. Our hotel is just 2 blocks from the train station, so it's so convenient. We just get off the train and walk around the corner and check into the hotel. And then next morning, there's a couple of sunrise options. This is one of them. If you want, we can take a boat ride on the Vaporetto down the Grand Canal at sunrise. And that's fun, just to see the beautiful colors. Hopefully it's a nice sunrise, and have a quick look at the vegetable market, the fish market, and then take the boat back to the hotel and have breakfast at the hotel. And then we're going to walk down to that same market via different routing. It's the Rialto Market. And then we carry on with more of a walking tour. That's the day we can do a gondola ride if you like. That generally costs maybe $30 per person, and we'll try and get some musicians maybe to go with it. About a 45-minute boat ride. It's very calm through the little canals. In Venice, there's the concerts by Interpreti Veneziani, which is a chamber music group. They perform every night in a church. It's not close to the hotel. We'd have to either take a walk. It'd take about half hour to walk there, or take a boat, and it's a nice walk. Any place you walk in Venice is a nice walk. By the way, on the first in Venice, see, the afternoon is free. That's for you to go get lost. You can't get too lost. That's when the fun begins anyway. You ask somebody for directions, ask for help. I won't be there because I'm going to be at the Biennale, which is the contemporary art show that happens every other year in Venice. And I wouldn't urge you to come with me because you want to see Venice. I've seen Venice. But every other year, I love to go to the Biennale. It's incredible. It's contemporary. And there's a whole campus, different buildings. It's a huge exhibit, probably 100 different artists are represented there. And I'd say probably about 85% of this stuff you're not interested in. I'm not interested in. I take a look and I leave. But 5 to 10% of the stuff is really whimsical, fun, crazy, contemporary art. So that's where I'll disappear that one afternoon. And then we leave. By then it's about the midpoint of the trip, and we're heading for Lucerne on the most beautiful train ride of our journey. It's through the Alps, so that's lovely. Great scenery always. And we'll get to Lucerne about 3 o'clock, mid-afternoon, and check in. And then I want to take you on a nice little walk in the old town. It's a small town, about 10 blocks long, a couple blocks wide. Very scenic. It's right on the water. It's on the River Royce and also Lake Lucerne. So it's just gorgeous. And our hotel is right on the river. So we'll all have rooms looking out on the river. It's the nicest hotel of this trip. It's the only hotel that I've used consistently from the beginning of my career. All the other cities, things change for one reason or another, but I just can't let go of the Balance Hotel. So that'll be lovely. And next morning on the 3rd, we can go up to Mount Titlis. That's a train ride and then a cable car to get to the top. And the ticket is going to cost you about $80 for that round trip. And you can use credit card for that. And that'll take us up to the top of Titlis. There'll be snow for sure. It's a glacier up there. And just wear a few layers that day. It's not that cold. Maybe 32, but it feels okay. It feels fine. And that's the day we can drop our laundry off at the laundromat at the Jet Wash, because that's a big service. She'll wash and dry and fold it for you. And it costs you about $20 per load for that service. And that helps a lot because you're not bringing a huge suitcase loaded with 18 changes of clothing. 25-inch max on the length of your suitcase, right? But 25 is measured by the length of the compartment of the suitcase itself, so not counting wheels. But that's so that it'll fit in the taxis and up on the train racks, because we bring the bags with us on the train when we're going, and they've all got to fit on the overhead racks. Bring a backpack of some kind in addition, and that'd be your carry-on bag. Even if it's a backpack that's got a handle and wheels, those have become very popular now. Just don't make it a real big one. You know, don't bring a second bag that's a 22-inch suitcase. And maybe a fanny pack during the day. Then that afternoon on the 3rd in Lucerne, if you'd like, we can take a side trip over to Zurich. Now, you might be feeling a little tired by that point. You might not want to do that. That's fine. Anytime I'm offering these extra suggestions, don't hesitate to say no. You know, I won't be offended if you say, "Oh, no, I don't want to do that, Dennis." In fact, last year, I did this same trip earlier this year. Only 2 people wanted to go to Zurich. I was surprised because usually there's a handful, 6 or 8 people. But Zurich is lovely. We'll talk about that later. It's another wonderful old town, long pedestrian zone. It's like Lucerne, but a little bigger. And I really think that you're not shortchanging Lucerne by digging out that afternoon, because we'll have time. You can decide for yourself at that moment if you want to see more of Lucerne or not. We don't have to make reservations on anything like that. We'll just hop on a train and go. Okay, so then on to Paris. Another nice train ride. We'll be connecting in Basel and getting on a deluxe high-speed French train. Goes 190 miles an hour.
TGV.
It's the TGV, yeah. And that particular run is the fastest of all the trains in Europe. Yeah, that's a nice one. Quite modern. Very smooth. And then arriving in Paris, and we'll take a walking tour right away over to Notre Dame and the left bank, and probably get on the open-top bus tour, depending on the weather and our timing, but that works out well. Very late in the day bus tour into early twilight. That's nice. It's open top where you can sit downstairs if you feel like it. And then next morning we'll visit the Louvre Museum, and I'll take you through there for about a 3-hour tour of the Louvre. That's Saturday. And then we could walk over, we could have lunch maybe at the food court. They have a very nice eatery at the Louvre after our visit. And then you're free, and I suggest that we walk over to the department store area right through the middle of downtown Paris, the Galeries Lafayette and Printemps and other shops around there. And we can kind of split up maybe and then regroup in an hour or so, depending on how long you want, and then continue walking back to the hotel through another route that's down Rue Montorgueil, which is a lovely, lovely neighborhood. Oh, I love that place. And that night, maybe if you've got the steam left, we'd go up to Montmartre, which is up on the hill, a neighborhood of Paris with the old restaurants and artists in the town, in the square. It's very touristic, but picture postcard kind of a place, kind of an atmosphere of the 1890s at Montmartre at Place de Tête. There's not that many evening concerts throughout this tour. In Paris, you might see some on posters in certain churches. Usually there's something going on in Paris. And then we have another day in Paris. We got 3 nights there. And that morning, Sunday morning, 8:30, we're going to Versailles. So there we have a reservation. And we don't have to wait on lines. Talk about lines. That's a place for lines and crowds. But they're getting there relatively early in the day is good. Maybe we'll beat, especially on a Sunday morning, maybe we'll beat some of the crowding. It's always crowded though. And then after the visit, the gardens have the fountains going. Only a few hours a week are their fountains going because they have to pump a lot of electricity to get the water going. But it'll happen that day from 11 a.m. till noon. You pay an additional €6 or whatever to go into the gardens, and we'll stroll around there. And then back to Paris by train. It's about a 45-minute train ride from Versailles to Paris. And that night, if you like, we could take a boat ride on the River Seine. That's a winner. And then next day, we're off to London, our final destination. We'll keep you busy in London, too. Always things to do and see in London. And what a great city it is. Again, we're in the middle of town in our hotel. We're just 1 block from Trafalgar Square, which is the very epicenter of London. All the theaters are at easy walking distance from our hotel, 5 to 10 minutes to get to all the theaters. And there's the half-price ticket booth at Leicester Square where you can buy tickets for performances for that day. Like in New York City, the TKTS, same idea. So you don't need to worry about getting tickets ahead of time. And there's always seats available for many play. The next morning on the 8th, we'll do a big walking tour. I'll lead you right up Regent Street, right through Mayfair and part of Soho, and then down Bond Street, and we'll see the changing the guards at Buckingham Palace. Pleasure, and then walk through St. James's Park and back to the hotel. And then afternoon, up to you guys, maybe the National Gallery of Art. Now, by this point, you've seen quite a bit of art during the trip. Maybe you'd rather go shopping or just wander around on your own. That's fine. But the National Gallery is just at Trafalgar Square. It's a block from the hotel, and it's free. And its collection is superb. It's in the certainly top 10 art museums of the world. It's something to see. We could go through there in like an hour and a half. I could whiz you through and show you the highlights. And then next day, the final day of the tour, I like to take us on a walk right from the hotel down the Strand, which is the main street, into the financial district called the City. The law courts, we'll see some pretty gardens along the way, and lots of people, morning rush hour, and get down to the financial district where we can see St. Paul's Cathedral before that. We won't go into the interior of St. Paul's because that takes time, and it costs about $20 to do that. So we'll just take a peek and take a break. They have a nice tea room and cafe downstairs at St. Paul's Cathedral. Take a break there. So it's the cafe in the crypt. Coffee, cappuccino, tea, toilets, gift shop. And this is actually, of course, the basement of the church itself. And then we can take the city bus back in towards the center that afternoon. And there you got a couple options. Maybe the British Museum, another outstanding, it's a history museum, and it's free. Or maybe you'd like to see Westminster Abbey, or go to Harrods, the great department store. A little shopping, window shopping. Yeah, Harrods is the most expensive place. Yeah, it's more expensive than Neiman Marcus. It makes Neiman Marcus look like Walmart. But a lot of people like to go just to see it, and maybe buy a little tin of tea, or a bag that says Harrods. And we'll also be in Fortnum and Mason on one of those morning walks in London. Another good food store, Fortnum and Mason. And we'll have time for shopping there. You can buy some tea, some omiyage at that place, Fortnum and Mason. Lovely spot. And then we fly home, all in the same day. And thank goodness we got an afternoon departure. Sometimes coming home, it's an early morning departure, and we have to leave the hotel at 6 a.m. But this is nice. This is a good one. We're wrapping up the trip. So how's that? Good trip?
Good trip. Sounds good. Yep.